Clover Park High School is located 40 miles south of Seattle, Washington, in the town of Lakewood.
In Clover Park, we are a very diverse district, and we pride ourselves on our diversity.
We serve 2 military bases, probably about 10 blocks from the school, $1 million lakefront homes, one direction, and 10 blocks another direction, real low-income housing.
The high school first opened its doors in 1928. By the 1990s, faculty and staff realized that Clover Park had to radically change the way it served its students. Clover Park High School was a comprehensive high school that served 1,500 students.
It was just one of those typical factory high schools. You walk in, you teach, you do the best you can to try and engage kids, but there was a sense of urgency that we all realized that we needed to change something because we were failing the students.
Large numbers of kids were not being successful. Large numbers of kids were not graduating. Attendance issues, discipline issues, safety issues.
The teachers here have been hearing year after year, you know, we're not achieving, and they're working as hard as they can. And so we needed something different because it's not okay just to tell them, well, you just have to keep working harder. This school became a member of the Coalition of Essential Schools. And I think that was probably the first significant step in the journey because it was an awareness that we wanted to do things differently and that we needed to do things differently.
Several years ago, Clover Park began a conversion process to subdivide into 4 separate small learning communities of 375 students each.
So they started with a volunteer group of 9th grade teachers who were willing to work with 9th graders in a different way, in a more integrated way. So they created what at that time they called 3 houses.
We would all have the same kids. We would have a common planning period. And our job was to integrate our subjects to make learning more personal.
For students in the first year as 9th graders, they were amazed by the fact that there were 5 teachers that talked about them when they weren't around, and all were aware of their progress and their successes. The next year, 9th and 10th graders were grouped by house. 11th and 12th graders were still in our traditional high school. And then we tried to do all grades in the 3rd and this year.
Those first couple of years were really demanding on our time and our energies because we were learning. The learning curve of what we're trying to do is so immense, right? So this year we've really begun to hit some rhythm where schools are beginning to emerge about who they are and taking on that leadership role about who they are in relationship to the learning needs of their students. We have quite a few things that
Leadership is broadly distributed in each of the 4 small learning communities.
Within each small school, there's really a leadership core team of a lead administrator, a counselor, an instruction facilitator, small schools coach, and a teacher leader that wrestles with instructional practice and those other areas around budget and space and that sort of thing.
To help this shift, Clover Park is rethinking the principal's role.
The role of the principal at Clover Park has really evolved over the time that I've been here since the beginning. From being more in control to being more as a coach.
I think you got to re-examine what your role is as an instructional leader today. If you want to manage something, then you need to think of a different way. But if you really want to help the system improve instructionally, you need to have more of a distributive leadership model that allows that collaboration. There's such a power of collaboration around this work that when teachers work collaboratively together, intently focused on problem solving with best practice ideas in front of them, they come up with solutions, powerful solutions that one person will never do. Right? One voice is so incomplete in this conversation, and you need multiple voices to address the situations and the complexities of the problem.
At the beginning of its conversion process, Clover Park received state funding, which allowed it to hire skilled teachers as instructional facilitators for each of its 4 houses.
Right. I'm an instructional facilitator, which pretty much just means I'm a teacher coach. Do we want to talk about how we want to approach teaming, or what are your needs as you look to the rest of this year?
I would love if you want to still come in and be a part of what's going on in class.
I do a lot of one-on-one coaching with teachers. My job is to teach teachers and to help support their growth and instruction so that kids achieve. What is it that you as a teacher need to be fulfilled, and what do you know your kids need? And now, here's how the small school project is going to help you make those things a possibility that you're limited in before.
Katie Taylor has been working with Kathy Hannawalt and her class to create literature circles in which students learn how to analyze and discuss literature.
First semester, we had all students read the same novel, and some kids read and some kids didn't read. So we really felt like maybe if they picked their book, there'd be improved engagement. So Kathy and I brainstormed a list of books that we had at school, and then the kids chose the books they were interested in, and then we did some strategic grouping.
On these lit circles, sometimes they feel like awkward dates. So let's just review. If your conversation stalls today, ask a question. Bring up a memory or connection that has to do with the book. Make a reference, a connection like I did with J-Lo when we were reading House on Mango Street, okay?
In literature circles, every kid has a role, and they run their own sessions based on everybody participating and contributing from their role.
And each role is designed to practice a specific reading strategy, connecting or summarizing or asking questions or investigating.
Because he wanted to be in the gang, and him and Stanley decided to make their own.
That's the west side or whatever?
Yeah, that's the one who died.
East side?
Where's the picture of it?
There's the picture?
Yeah, right. This is him right here.
We need the flexibility of being a small learning environment for a teacher to be able to say, I want the freedom to be able to have social justice as my theme this year and have students pick those books rather than it's June, they're 10th graders, so I should be teaching Romeo and Juliet.
Well, he almost got jumped one time at this dance, and he escaped because it was dark in there and they couldn't see him, and they was jumping their homeboy.
Because they were trying to beat him up, but they just started beating each other up, and then he just like crawled out.
They didn't know who they was beating up. They was just fighting each other.
You guys are you're really good in this book about remembering details. Why do you think that is?
Because we could relate to it.
Yeah?
I can relate to this a lot because whenever I go to Louisiana, there's a whole bunch of stuff like this and all this other junk.
What's up with Marta? She's a little bit different. What do you guys think about Marta?
I don't know. Well, she's like, yeah, she's mean. She's mean.
What do you guys think she wants? Because she's very, like, passionate and...
I think she wants Esperanza there. You know, like, Esperanza is, like, still thinking she's in a high level.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to accept she's in a low level now. So...
Last year I had all the House C freshmen for English, and this year I have all the House C sophomores for English, and hopefully have them next year as juniors.
These students have known me for a year and a half. They've known each other for a year and a half. They have the classes with each other, and so while we still work on build a community, it's already there. They already trust each other. They know what expectations there are from me and each other.
I think that's why
I could either be teaching the same thing every year, 8th grade English, and I am the 8th grade English teacher, and I teach that the same every year. Or I could be in a small school where I have the same students every year, and I'm changing my curriculum.
That's one thing I love about our small school is teachers on your team and instructional facilitators have the same students, and so we can go talk about Bobby or Ricky or Joey or whoever, and they know who they are, and we're in it together. I don't feel like I'm out there all alone.
Okay, wow, oh my gosh, you guys totally rocked it today. I went to every single one, and my hair just literally blew back, my cheeks blew back. I was blown away. They're awesome.
A key part of Clover Park's conversion process is interdisciplinary instruction, the integration of subjects, such as English and history, into one course.
So obviously all of you discovered last night that the protagonist, what happens? He dies, okay?
This is American Studies, and it is just a dream class. It is, if I could design my favorite course, this would be it. And essentially what it is, we take American literature and American history. So what I do is I try to completely integrate the subject matters. While we're studying a particular era, we're reading literature from that era and connecting it to a bigger theme.
What do you believe he was thinking about as he was floating in the pool before he was like literally floating in the pool?
The lens that I use for American Studies is the American dream.
If you were
What is
Gatsby at
this
that
dream?
moment,
What is the American dream?
what
What's
would
my
he have
dream?
been thinking? After the previous day's events, okay? He's been in the car, Daisy was driving, Myrtle gets killed by accident.
Right now we're reading The Great Gatsby. We began the unit by some fairly general readings of the 1920s to kind of get the gestalt of what was going on. The social, the political, the economic challenges that America was facing, how that's affecting the American dream.
Text in Chapter 8 that reflects some of these 1920s themes that we've uncovered. Materialism, disillusionment, moral corruption, and classism.
While they're examining the decade in terms of the material gain that the country was experiencing, there's also some questions that are coming up about that material gain. And the Gatsby helps, I think, if examined the way I hope kids are examining it, it lends them a critical filter to view the 1920s.
Gatsby was poor at that time. Now he's rich, and she still doesn't want him. She wants to be with Tom still. So he gives up his dream.
So what does that tell you about Daisy's character? Because now that she knows that, she is. Yeah.
Every student in the group has a particular role every evening, and that role changes and shifts. So one night, a person who's the discussion leader will come up with some provocative questions and statements to get kids to talk. Another person's the character analyst. There's a historian. And there's a language specialist and a summarizer. And so each of those individuals has an opportunity to say something.
When they go to New York and Myrtle sees the yellow car,
Mr. Wilson was really edgy about his wife dying, so they were just trying to calm him down and ask him questions, keep his eye on him.
And Mr. Wilson?
Because he was rocking really fast, and I think he was about to crack, and they were trying to calm him down.
Oh, okay.
There's accountability within the group, like, you know, we need your character analysis. It's much more effective in getting more kids engaged.
And he felt as though he had married her.
Yeah.
She promised to wait for him when he left for the war, but then she married Tom.
Yeah.
What did this dream, this materialistic dream that Gatsby had
Cause death.
Well, like we went over this and we were talking about like wealth and lower class, middle class, and upper class, and then highest class, the people that were always elite and wealthy. And then we talked about how no matter how wealthy Gatsby actually got, the elite wealthy was always perfect for Daisy.
he hasn't had his riches for forever. He's only had it for that short period of time.
What did you think about that scene with Gatsby in the pool at the end? Not
He had an American dream, but he went to the extreme measures where he couldn't get it, so he just lost it.
Was he ever going to get that?
No, I don't think so.
As soon as you get into that certain class, then you can't really get out of it unless you change, and you can only go down, you can't go up.
Well, he's new rich, and
There's exactly. He's new rich. He's nouveau riche. There's this class system within the system.
Right? Maybe it's the same now as it was then, because you know how there's old rich and then there's people getting rich now. You know, they're still different.
Do we have barriers like that in society today?
Yeah.
Talk about that, Louis. What do you mean? Yeah, you agree.
Like, say if any of us try to go to like a rich school, like we probably won't get accepted or anything.
There's like racial barriers. People probably wouldn't hire like the black because they were like didn't think they could work hard enough or something.
Really? You still think that even today?
Yeah.
And that maybe Fitzgerald is trying to surface inequity. Because what's this decade known for?
Get rich fast.
Get rich fast, get rich quick, materialism.
And it's like Tom was in her life for the money and Gatsby was for the love.
We'll just break down the conversation.
Clover Park takes an in-house approach to professional development. Each small learning community has 10 half-days to use for their own professional development needs.
In this week's half-day meeting, what we did is asked the 10th grade teacher team to work with students in reflecting on the process of the ethnographic research study.
Your conversation that you
And the outside looking in are our staff members at the 9th, 11th, and 12th grade.
There was a number of staff members in that meeting who weren't directly involved in that project that really were able to learn for their own professional practice on ways in which they can deliver instruction differently.
That's the way that it usually works with the fishbowl. We invite you guys to enter the conversation, pose questions or make comments.
From the ethno study here.
The teachers on the outside looking in, it's like they look at this process and they think, how can I make that happen? How can I make that magic occur in my classroom for my kids?
What issues did you come up with that?
In my past history classes, it's been more just about learning the raw information, but these classes have taught us not only the raw information, but kind of how to personally reflect on what you're learning. And I enjoy when Mr. Ruprecht gives us an assignment and doesn't really tell us what to do. It kind of irritates me sometimes when I don't know where to go, but at the same time it allows me to kind of expand upon myself and build for myself that basis which I'm going to need for the rest of my life.
It's really been interesting to me to hear you say projects like this make me get up and come to school, because many of us in this small school change process have really had this hypothesis that if there's more project-based learning going on and more hands-on learning, that kids will come and the attendance rate will, increase and all those things will happen. And to hear you say that today makes me want to cry.
That kids are engaging in the work versus the day I walked in here the first day of school 6 years ago. And the systems and the structures that have been put in place through small schools have allowed kids to have a consistent, sustained learning experience where they can engage in real work that's personally meaningful.
I think the indicators that we're seeing are we have more kids involved in college prep courses. And college prep means that kids are taking world language. Kids are taking a third year of math. More kids are taking a third year of science. More kids are beginning to think and be aware of what it means to go on to college. We have more kids taking PSATs. We have more kids taking AP courses. We raised our graduation rate by about 10% last year.
In addition, the latest state test scores show gains of 10 to 30% since the redesign began in the numbers of students demonstrating proficiency in reading, writing, and math. Especially significant, Clover Park narrowed the ethnic, socioeconomic, and gender achievement gaps. In 10th grade reading proficiency, for example, between 2002 and 2005, all ethnic groups made large gains. And during the same 3-year period, there was a significant narrowing of the gaps between whites and Latinos and between whites and African Americans.
How do we begin to become more responsive to the immediate needs that we have in our schools? And I think this is the partnership that we need to talk more about around policymakers, central office, school boards, communities, and teachers. We probably need to start with new systems that are more responsive to the immediate needs of our communities and the children that live in them.